Hello, Achieve parents. I'm Steve Wright, K-8 principal of Achieve Charter School. We are so excited to share our plans with you for reopening our campus 5 days a week for kindergarten through 8th grade, starting on October 19th. We know a lot of people have concerns about safety, socialization, scheduling. What will my kids do if I don't send them to school? So we hope this slide presentation can answer most of your questions. And then on Monday evening at 6 p.m., we'll host a town hall style meeting to answer any other questions you may have about our program, plans for sanitizing, or anything else you're wondering about. There's a Google form attached to the email that you're getting with this video. Please put any questions you have for us in that Google form, and we'll start with those at our town hall meeting. And I want to introduce our executive director, Casey Taylor, to start telling you more about our plan.
Well, hi everyone. It's good to virtually see you. Thank you for your time tuning into this video. I'm Casey Taylor, the Executive Director. And like Steve, I'm really excited to share our opening plan with you. Steve's going to get into the details of what school will look like when we reopen, but I want to give you a quick view behind the curtain and let you see what the obstacles and considerations are that we've been wrestling with as we develop this plan to get our students back to school in the safest way possible. So let's get started. Steve, you want to throw that slide deck up? And as we get started, I do want to give a huge shout out to our board and our families and our staff and even our students who've been thinking about really good ideas for us and have been reaching out to us over the last couple of weeks. I think we've come up with something that's going to work for all of us. All right, Steve. So through this whole process, our goal and our board's goal is to get students in person with their teachers and their peers. We need to improve the instructional program because we know that what we've developed for virtual learning actually has worked well for some students, and we want to make sure that whatever we do when we come back to school works just as well and better. Of course, our goal is to keep our school community healthy. And then once we open, our goal is to stay open and not have to be bouncing back and forth. So these are the considerations that we've been focusing on. All of the parent survey information, thank you for filling those out. Our number one goal really is what's best for students and what they need. Then our staff comfort level, and thankfully all of our staff are on board with this plan and we're just so thankful for them. Then we're jumping through the Butte County Public Health Department guideline hoops and also the California State Department of Public Health guidelines. And then we've been in contact with all the local schools in the county about what they're doing and sharing best practices and good ideas. So just to give you an idea of what our parent surveys look like, we've had 137 responses. We have 145 families at Achieve. 87% said yes, we're ready to bring our students back on campus. 13% said no, plus all the additional feedback that we've been getting from emails and phone calls from everybody. So thank you for that. Okay, now you know that Butte County has moved to red, the tier, and hopefully we just stay there. But that did not allow us to just open up to schools right away. We've got this 2-week waiting period that we have actually met. And so now schools in Butte County can open as of October 14th. So here's the thing, and why we're moving quickly to open by the 19th is if we open by the 19th, if the county moves back into the purple, schools that are open can remain open. If we don't open before that and Butte County moves back to purple, then we can't open our schools until Butte County moves back to the red. So we definitely want to take advantage of this time while we're red to get our school open. But again, open in a safe way so that we can stay open. So here's some of the state guidance that we have to follow, and we took all of this into consideration as we've looked at different models of reopening school. Hygiene practices, including regular hand washing, and we have a lot of sinks at Achieve, and we just ordered another hand washing station on top of that. We have to include face coverings, disinfecting and ventilation of our classrooms, distancing inside and outside the classroom. So that includes our entrances and our exits, our hallways. We have to limit sharing of supplies. We have to limit visitors, and that includes classroom volunteers. We have to have check for signs and symptoms of our staff and our students, anyone entering the campus. Plan for when our staff or our students become sick, plan for a regular COVID testing of our staff, and then plan for distance learning should a class be exposed and have to go back into distance learning. So these are the two pieces of state guidance that have really focused our efforts. And you'll see that one of the biggest obstacles was in secondary schools, or where students have individualized schedules where they're moving from class to class and teachers. We have to plan for a way to reduce mixing among students and different teachers and cohorts and keep a teacher and a student all together. So that was one of our biggest obstacles for our middle school program. And then maximizing that space between desks and students and teachers. So if practicable, we need 6 feet between desks, where practical, partitions between desks, and we have a plan for that. This scenario is, we've sent this out, it's also on our website. This is from the Butte County Office of Ed, specifically about what to do if a student or a staff test positive, if they're actually just have symptoms, or if a family member or a close contact with a student or staff tests positive. So you can take a look at this a little closer, but the thing that we have highlighted in red there is if a student or a staff tests positive for COVID, the whole cohort, the whole class of students that teacher is with will be closed for 14 days from the last date of exposure. So this is a huge obstacle that we're trying to avoid. So you probably have been talking to friends and family around the state, around the country, whose students have started to go back to school and what that model looks like. Just want to share with you some of the options that we've been considering that other school leaders across our county and state have been considering. One is just to get all students back on campus, and Achieve can do that because we're small by design. So we can actually limit our class cohorts of students to 13 to 24 students and get them socially distanced. So that's one option. The other option is that cohort where you have half the school come in the morning and half come in the afternoon, and then leave a day. And in this case, it would have been Friday for distance learning and disinfecting. Or there's the other option where half the students come a couple of days a week and the other half come in another couple days a week, with Wednesday in the middle for distance learning and cleaning. And then we have another option that we developed specifically for our middle school. We thought at first, and you may have seen in the email, that we weren't going to be able to bring our middle schoolers back every single day, Monday through Friday, but we have since overcome that obstacle, and we're excited to share what we think we can do about that. So here are the big pieces that we are working around: making sure that we're providing the maximum instruction time for students, that we're providing social distancing for everyone, teachers, staff, students, that we can disinfect our campus properly between students moving around, that our option was going to be the best as far as childcare and transportation goes for you, families. Also making sure that our teachers had time to prep, because our teachers usually have an art and a music period. Your students usually do that and let our teachers get to work. We also have to find a good amount of time for our teachers to be able to develop independent study programs still for our students who are choosing to or need to isolate at home, and give our teachers time to make sure that they have contact with those families too. So finding time for teachers to do instruction and also to support our students who are still at home was a huge issue we're looking at. Also, we have to look at how much staff we have, and do we have the staff to really spread our students out and split them up? And then how we are going to use technology. Is it moving back and forth from home to school, or is it just staying at school? Okay. So you can take a closer look at this if you want to, but these are basically all the obstacles we were looking at. These were the 3 different scenarios that we were looking at: all the students on campus, morning or in afternoon, or a couple of days a week cohort. We color coded it based on how serious the concern was. And you can see that us trying to get all of our students back on campus definitely is the best option for everybody involved. So our board, again, huge kudos to our board who really pushed our thinking at our board meeting this last Tuesday. We have come up with a plan to open all of K-8 Monday through Friday, and we're going to start that on October 19th.
And this is where I get to tell about our plans, right?
Yeah.
So we are super excited. A couple things to point out. This is our plan starting October 19th. It does not necessarily mean a plan for the whole school year. If we get to a point in the school year where everyone comes back on campus and we don't have students doing independent study and we can bring art and music back, our plan would be at that point to go back to a regular school day. But like Casey said, we're going to start with this 8 o'clock to 1:30 time. 8 o'clock is our drop-off time that we're talking about. And so let's talk about more about what that's actually going to look like in school. So our K-3 students are going to be operating as one cohort, and they will have some times of the day, we can put 24 in a classroom, especially with the smaller students, and give them the space that we need. However, we have a lot of other spaces on campus. So sometimes they will be together in one classroom, but a lot of the day they will be spread between 2 classrooms. Our 4th through 8th grade students are a little bit bigger, and our class sizes are a little bit bigger for most of those. So 4th, 5th, and 8th will need to be operating in 2 classrooms all day long. And we'll talk about what that looks like with one class, one group with a teacher, one group with an aide. Our current enrollment of 6th and 7th grade students allows those students to stay in one classroom. We'll have individual supplies like Casey mentioned earlier. Masks are recommended but highly encouraged for kindergarten through 2nd grade students. Based on your comfort level, if you want your student to wear a mask all day long, we will ensure that that happens. And we'll just keep training our youngest students to get better and better at effectively wearing their masks. 3rd through 8th grade students will be required to wear their mask almost all day, with exceptions, of course, for eating lunch. And when we get our desk shields in place, when they're doing silent work time, they'll be able to take their masks off. Though, if you talk to our teachers, they go, silent work time, we don't really do that a lot, right? A lot of what we do is collaborative. So we will help our students to safely wear their masks when they're collaborating with teachers or other students. The tables and desks are going to be spaced out. They'll have desk shields, like the plexiglass shields on them. We are going to use all of our spaces on campus. So music rooms, art rooms, library, these will all be learning spaces, outside learning spaces. We'll put easy ups up with tables under them. Like everywhere will be a learning space, because what we really want to do is give everyone as much space as possible to dilute those germs. Regular hand washing, like Casey mentioned, we have an extra hand washing station, staggered recess and lunch. Students will only be able to play with students in their own grade during recess and lunchtime. And we won't be switching teachers. So we finally figured out a plan to make that work in middle school, and I'll tell you more about what that looks like. Middle school is going to remain with their cohort all day. Now their cohort, 6th grade, that's one cohort. 7th grade is one cohort. And then 8th grade, like we said, is going to be split into 2 different classrooms. And we think we came up with a really innovative plan, which should provide a fun and unique learning experience for students throughout this fall and possibly throughout the rest of the school year, depending on how things go in our county. That'll lead to some really deep learning experiences and also allow them to be on campus every single day. So for our first 2 to 3 weeks, we don't know how long it'll last yet, that first block, 6th grade is going to start and they'll be on campus with Mr. Alderson. And they are going to do a deep dive into their current history project. They'll work on their history PLT. They can actually work on other subject PLT if you're familiar with Summit. 7th grade is going to do that with ELA with Mrs. Siegel, 8th grade with Mrs. Etchison, and with Mrs. Matt. So they'll have 2 rooms. And then Mr. Wood, who happens to be super tech savvy, as all of you middle school parents have seen, is going to start by zooming into the classroom. We will put him up on the big screen and he'll give his math lesson from there. He can answer questions from students, all of that. When the students start to work individually, the 3 other classroom teachers, Mr. Alderson, Mrs. Siegel, and Mrs. Etchison, are going to become a super highly highly qualified math aide. In fact, they have all taught math at different times at Achieve, and they will assist the students in class. They'll move through the classroom. Mr. Wood can still answer student questions in his Zoom or his Google Meet. If a teacher notices something like, hey, we're all stuck on number 4, that teacher will just put Mr. Wood up on the big screen. Hey, Mr. Wood, we're all stuck on number 4. Can you give us some help here? So we think it's going to provide a pretty cool learning opportunity for students. After those first 2 to 3 weeks, we switch groups and they do a deep dive into another subject. So cool thing is we've never actually tried that at Achieve. We have talked about things like this at Achieve. There are schools that learn like this. This can be a very authentic way of learning. And we're excited about the opportunity both for learning and also for being able to bring all of our students back together. the big obstacle that Casey already mentioned, but I just want to tie to middle school is right now, our middle school teachers cannot move between the groups of students. If that changes, we will change our schedule. So here's kind of broad stroke schedule. You can drop your students off between 8 and 8:15. That's for kindergarten through 8th grade. We will use both gates. So people who are used to using the different gate systems last year will go back to that. Students will go directly to their classroom, or if they need breakfast, they can go directly to the cafeteria, pick up their breakfast, and then straight to class. Morning assembly will be virtual. I'll either video those or do a quick Zoom that teachers can put up on the screen. And then I will end morning assembly with a discussion question for the class, and the classroom teachers can continue with the morning assembly discussion. Like I said earlier, recesses, classes will be outside separately. There will likely be 2 classes on the playground at one time, but they will have different areas, and we've scheduled it out so they are also different size students. So we can easily tell like that the classes aren't mixing. So 4th graders will be out there with kindergartners, and they'll be in 2 different areas of the playground. I think we can keep them well spaced. Similar thing with lunches, we'll eat outside as long as the weather is nice. When it starts raining, we'll eat inside the classrooms, and then we're going to use the Life Center as just a play area so we can still let students get out and play. Everyone will need to be picked up at 1:30, and I want you to start kind of thinking through that, because we do not have a way of supervising mixed groups of students after school. So we're going to have to ensure that parents can pick up everyone in a timely manner for right now. Same thing as everything else. When we have the freedom in Butte County to mix these different groups because our numbers go low enough and we get into those orange and yellow tiers, we will be able to supervise students longer, after school childcare. Our Balanced Brain project is ready to go, and it's going to be amazing. If you've seen Jess doing that, it's fantastic, and it has potential to be on campus this year when we can meet those guidelines. And then from 1:30 to 3:30, our teachers are going to prep and then manage those students on independent study. So Casey already started talking to you about some obstacles, but we have, like, just to give you a full picture of what we're trying to do, like to keep everyone safe, we would have 217 students on campus at one time if everybody comes back. Like I mentioned before, kindergarten through 3rd grade. This is sort of an obstacle because you have to know that if you have a kindergarten through 3rd grade student, our plan right now is that sometimes in the day they will all be in the same classroom together. They will still be spaced out, and there's enough room for them to stay apart from each other. Like they can work 4 to 5 feet apart from each other in class. They can probably even work 6 feet apart. We just want everyone to be really aware that we understand the issues. For example, keeping kindergartners 6 feet apart, right? We want you to be just aware and thinking of that. So we see that also as an obstacle. Like, how do we ensure that they keep that spacing and still let them act like kids and hit the developmental norms for their age group? So we will, when we split the 4th, 5th, and 8th graders into 2 rooms, that presents another obstacle. Not a safety obstacle though, that presents an academic obstacle, because they will spend half of their day with the classroom teacher and half of the day with an instructional aide. Our instructional aides are amazing, but our credentialed classroom teachers are just over the top as far as instruction goes. So you'll have to understand as a parent, like, they'll be with their teacher half the day, they'll be with an aide half the day. It won't be like half and half and then a switch. The switches will happen throughout the day. We talked a lot about scheduling yesterday, and depending on your grade level, your teacher will give you more information about when they're going to switch. Same thing, we'll make it academically appropriate, developmentally appropriate, all that kind of stuff. Middle school students will have a non-traditional schedule. So there are a lot of things to work out with that. It has some really cool opportunities, but it certainly also presents some obstacles. It puts them with the same group all day long, the same subject all day long, which can be really cool. But also if history is not your thing and you have 2 weeks straight of history, right? Like, this could potentially be an obstacle. We do have to put some of our programs on hold for a while. Music, art, our after school Balanced Brain program. These programs will likely still be happening virtually in the classroom with the classroom teacher. With our art and music teachers with just doing the Balanced Brain Project, but they won't be a standalone class for a while. Another obstacle is we do need additional staffing for cleaning, sped services, obviously giving staff breaks, substitutes is a big deal right now. So those are some other things we're trying to figure out. We've already talked about a lot of this, but I'll go through it quickly. So school will look like students wearing masks most of the time. That virtual morning assembly. I will be popping in and out of classes, but obviously I can't spend extreme amounts of time in any one class because I can't just become the vector, right? Your student will need a water bottle. This one's so important. Our drinking fountains will be turned off. There's places they could fill up the water bottle during the day, like in a sink, but they need to come to school with a full water bottle. Only 2 students in the bathroom at a time. That should have already been the norm, but we'll make sure that happens. Only 2 students in the bathroom at a time. One direction in the elementary school hallway. The rest of our hallways are really cool with the layout of our school. You could probably be 15 feet apart from someone, but that hallway will have to be one direction. We already talked about the recess and lunch. Art and music, still up in the air for right now. We talked a lot about students spaced out as much as possible. We haven't talked about teachers wearing masks and shields, but our teachers will be wearing masks and shields all day long. Now here's the big question on everybody's mind. So then what happens if my kid's cohort closed? At Achieve, we're calling each grade a cohort. So 4th, 5th, and 8th grade are still going to operate as a cohort, even though they spend time in 2 separate rooms. And that's because we need to make sure that they still get good quality instruction, and we don't have the staffing to teach virtual and on campus at the same time. So if a student or staff member in any grade tests positive for COVID, this isn't just has symptoms, but test positive for COVID, that cohort will be closed. They can't come on campus for 14 days from the last exposure. And that group will go right back into what they're doing right now with virtual learning. We're going to use the exact same model, same tools, same format, same schedule. It'll be just like what they're doing right now. Next, let's talk about what school looked like on independent study. So this our plan for students that can't come back to school right now because of health concerns or other safety concerns is to do independent study. Kindergarten through 5th grade, independent study is going to be paper packets. They'll still have access to their Chromebook. They can still use online tools. 4th and 5th grade will not be doing Summit in their paper packets. They will have a different independent study packet. K3, they'll have paper packets. Middle school, we do think that because our middle school students are much better at using technology and because of how we planned the flow of their classroom, they can still do Summit. However, they will have to do more of it asynchronously. The cool thing with Mr. Wood doing virtual math right now, even for students on campus, is that students can participate in that from home. There are other subjects they will have to attempt asynchronously. So going back to what we talked about over the summer, that means they will be working on Summit, but they'll get help from their teacher after school or via email or maybe a video for support, but they won't have very much synchronous learning time in their other 3 subjects. Oh, let me go back to that slide for a minute. There's one other scenario that your student might be on independent study. If your student has a sibling that tests positive, they would have to go on independent study also for 2 weeks. So for example, if you have a student in 5th grade and in 3rd grade, and your own child in 5th grade tested positive, that whole class has to go on independent study, but also that one 5th grader that tested positive, his or her sibling would also have to go on independent study. The rest of 3rd grade would not go on independent study. The rest of 3rd grade is like 2 degrees of separation away. They can continue coming to school. That 3rd grader though, won't be on virtual learning like 5th grade. 5th grade just moved their class, their teachers and everything online, but we only move one 3rd grade student. That 3rd grade student would get the independent study packet for those 2 weeks. That's kind of a complicated system, and I'm guessing there'll probably be more questions about that on Monday at our town hall. So here's some times when you need to keep your students home. If they wake up and you have a fever of 100.4 or higher, and we are recommending temperature checks every day before they leave home. We are not doing temperature checks as they walk on campus. Check their temperatures at home. If they have a fever, please keep them home. If they have chills, nasal congestion, runny nose, shortness of breath, diarrhea, headaches, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, body aches, loss of taste or smell, any of these things, you need to keep your student home that day. We really need to be proactive in order to keep our campus open. We do have a little bit of new hiring that needs to happen to make this plan work. And you see in the next steps for staff. So we do have to hire 1 or 2 extra people to help disinfect. Luckily, we have Mr. Pete, who is just amazing, and he's everywhere cleaning everything all the time, but we need more. We'll put out a posting for that job soon. So if you know someone, we're looking for probably 6 to 7 hours a day, Monday through Friday. We've ordered all of these things you see on your screen: shields, cleaning supplies, playground equipment, water stations. They've all been ordered. Many of them will come before October 19th, but some of them will be coming after that. Still polishing up our scheduling. And the next big step is gathering parent information about who will choose independent study. So the next step for parents, start thinking about ordering your uniforms, right? We know you don't have these. Some of you have them from last year. If you don't have them by October 19th, that's okay. Your student can still come to school, but start ordering uniforms. We have a whole bunch of uniforms in stock already. So if you want to buy some, you can buy them right now. Watch for instructions from your teachers, because there will be things peculiar to each class, and we have not covered that. Make sure your student brings their device back to school on October 19th, but you can keep your hotspot at home. And then listen to your teachers for more information, because our current plan is that 4th through 8th are going to bring their Chromebook home every day. You got to get your child a water bottle. Any forms and surveys that we send between now and then, please fill them out. We need that information from you. That's what's guiding many of our decisions right now. And then attend our Achieve Town Hall on Monday, October 12th. And you will have opportunities to ask questions and get them answered on October 12th. Our plan for next week is this: October 12th, town hall meeting. We'll be on Zoom. We'll answer all of the questions that we get on the Google form and any other questions that come up that night. Tuesday, October 13th is when we'll get the official word from Butte County about whether schools can open or not. If schools can open, then on Wednesday, the 14th, we will send an email to start to get your answer, because we really will need to know exactly who is planning to come back on campus and who wants to start with independent study. For those who are starting with independent study, we are going to ask that you commit to do that until Thanksgiving break, and that will be the next checkpoint that we allow a group of students on campus. So you probably have a whole bunch of questions, just like everyone else does after they start thinking about this. So please look for that form. Start using that to document all the questions that you have. Mrs. Taylor, is there anything else we want to tell them today?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for their flexibility. If there's anything that we've learned in the last 2 years, it's how to be flexible. We just appreciate all of your support, and our staff and our board and everybody willing to just do what's best for students. And then as we move through, we'll continue to make changes to the program just to make sure that it's the best that it can be. Thank you guys so much for your support. We're really looking forward to having students on campus and seeing you all again.
Yeah, I'll second all of that. I mean, we have had good ideas from staff, board members, parents. I've had students emailing me with ideas. Like, so many of our people have put thought into this. So thank you. We look so forward to seeing people back on campus.
Bye, everyone.